Hello my dears, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a bit different. I was going to do a reaction video to all of the men versus women rhetoric that I see quite often online, but then I thought it would be quite interesting to have a male perspective in the conversation. So I did a collab with Cam from Topical Juice, and yeah, I really hope you enjoy it. So have you got your video ready?
I am recording, my camera's recording, my audio's recording, and I'm good to motherfucking go.
I'm often struck by the gross differences in the way that men hate women and women hate men. When you hear a woman say they hate all men, it often comes from a place of fear, this previous experience, if not their own individual lived experience. The experiences of the women around them are usually enough to have this fear, a justifiable fear. And when they say they hate, they always want to remove themselves from men. They want men to leave them alone. But men's hatred of women seems to want just the opposite. It wants to creep in, it wants to be with us, it wants to have what we are. It's like their hatred is based in entitlement and possessiveness. They want either what we have or they want to do things to us. If there truly were these deep flaws that women had as a whole, would men not be giving us the same treatment that we give them and trying to remove themselves from our foul presence? It's just telling when men try to claim misandry affects them outside of the internet. When their misogyny, if not literally killing us, definitely makes our lives pretty miserable.
For me, again, I think it's all relative. So the fact that she mentions how women have, they have their own individual experiences about men, and that's what kind of it rationalizes and justifies their kind of hatred towards all men and things like that. Listen, I agree that with a lot of, so I agree that we do live to an extent in a patriarchal society where men kind of hold certain positions of power, and if women are going to be attacked, it usually would be by men. But by her logic, I feel like the way she was talking and her demeanor, she dismissed the fact that men also can't have the same individual experiences with women. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying literally being killed by women, because the stats won't really support that. But I mean, just literally, if a man had, I suppose, multiple individual experiences with women, it could be, I don't know, women just wanting money from them, or having certain expectations of a man that are maybe like laced in outdated convention, that might shape a man's opinion on women. I just feel like she kind of downplayed a male's experience with the opposite gender, if that makes sense. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what she's saying. I just feel like you can apply the exact same logic and the exact same experience to men.
I agree. I do agree that she does dismiss the experiences that men have with women that could make them like that. Like, for example, there are men who get completely shafted in like family court. That could make you quite angry at a woman. If you're going through divorce and she takes everything, your kids and everything, that can make you pretty angry towards women. So I can see that. So I do think there are some experiences that men have had with women that can make them have very negative hostilities towards women. I personally think hating women is just as irrational as hating men. Like, you can't say I hate men or I hate women, because it's like you hate all of them. Like, you hate the whole entire sex. You hate every single. I think regardless of whether it's a man saying it or a woman saying it, it sounds completely like nonsensical. It doesn't make sense.
Because real talk, if you think you could sit there and do you went to a jiu-jitsu class, or you went to an anti class, or you think that you did some Krav Maga and you could actually get a guy off you, bro, a 12-year-old boy will literally any of you all up at the table. I promise you. Mm-hmm. Men are physically superior to women. There's a reason why there's an NBA, not a WNBA. There's a reason why high school boys destroy women national team in soccer. There's a reason why Serena Williams lost to a hungover guy ranked 97th in a tennis exhibition match. World champion, best tennis player ever, destroyed by a man that's hungover. You cannot compete with a man. Men are physically superior to women in every which way. If you try to fight a guy, you're going to lose. My best suggestion, get a gun and run.
That there is genuinely hilarious. Now, it's crazy that opinions like that do exist. There's 2 points I want to make here. Obviously, we're not naive to think that there's no physical differences between men and women. That's just a fact. There's no argument there. It's just what it is. Men, of course, are going to be more physically domineering than women. I'm not disputing that. If I'm a 6'1", 6'1¾", nearly 6'2" man who goes to the gym. I box. You know what I'm saying? I'm physically, if I wanted to overpower a small woman, or even most women, I probably would succeed. But where he is completely ignorant and just I don't know, just very stupid, low IQ, is he's talking about a woman can be a trained athlete and a 12-year-old boy would be able to physically dominate. Now, when I have children, it's going to be very important for me, especially a daughter, that I put her into boxing or martial arts from the moment she comes out of my wife's womb, because it will give me a lot more satisfaction as a parent, and I can give them a lot more independence as a parent, if I know that they can handle themselves. That guy there is literally, he's just chatting out of his arse, to be honest. There's no way a trained athlete, a trained woman would obviously lose to a 12-year-old boy. He's making a point, and his ignorance and his the red pill nature of him is just, he's exaggerating. There's no way someone can believe that. But as a woman, how do you react to that?
I think he's obviously exaggerating when he says like 12-year-old boy. I think that's a bit of exaggeration. I do think that men do have a physical advantage, like a significant physical advantage. And I think when he uses the examples of like why there's a separate sports categories and stuff, like, yeah, that's just because of that. When you've done sports with boys, you know that there's a big difference. Like, I remember when I was in school and one of our PE teachers was off sick, and we had to join up with the boys and we'd play football with them. The boys were playing football, we were playing dodgeball, okay? We were ducking and diving for our lives. So, you know, to claim that there's no differences between boys and girls or men and women when it comes to physical, I just can't, because I know it's not true. And I actually think that pretending that there isn't a difference is kind of silly, because I saw this video of this woman. She was like a pro fighter, and someone tried to steal her purse, and she tried to fight them off, you know? And I'm assuming because of her background, she probably was quite confident that she could probably take them. She got wrecked. And so I do think there's a slight harm in letting women think that they can take on men, because the reality is the vast majority of men can kill women with their bare hands. The same is not true in the reverse. I would agree that men are physically stronger than us. I would agree that men are faster than us. I think that's great, you know, good for you lads. But I don't think that makes them physically superior. Your only metric is strength. There are a ton of other things that women physically can do better than men, or can do that men just can't do. And so why does the metric you've decided to determine if men are superior only work for men? Like, why is the metric that you've decided is the one that men have? Because I could do the same and use a metric that only women have. I could try and argue that we are superior because we have the ability to do things that you can't do. Like, we can create life, right? So does that make us superior to men? I can say that women are superior because we can do this and we can do that and you can't, but it's just stupid. What's the point? I just don't get the point.
Men are luxury items to women at this point. Women don't give two chocolate-covered what men want. It doesn't matter to us anymore. This is the part you're not understanding. See, for hundreds of years, the patriarchy dictated that women must get married to a man in order to be able to function in society. But that's not the case anymore. Women don't have to get married to a man to live any kind of fulfilled life they want. Women can meet their own basic needs. In the immortal words of Miss Miley Cyrus, I can buy my own flowers. So the only reason for me to be in a relationship with a man is if he's bringing something to the table, if he's enriching my life in some way. I don't have to get married to function. Women can choose now, and more and more and more, women are choosing not to get married or be in relationships with men. And that's when y'all are losing your minds. You should be spending more time improving yourself instead of bullying women on the internet. And this whole threat of women, oh, you're gonna grow old and die alone. No, we're not. That's not a threat. We have our friends. We have our sisters with us. Did you ever see the Golden Girls, my dude? That's not a cautionary tale. It's a goddamn victory lap.
I don't personally believe that everyone has to get married, but that could be because I view marriage from a very family-based way of looking at it, if that makes sense. Like, I think marriage is more important for kids. If you don't want to have children and you don't want to get married, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't see the problem. I don't view marriage as like a declaration of love, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think that someone loves you more just because they get married to you. Because, I mean, you've got some people who get married for like 72 days, like Kim Kardashian, right? In regards to her, though, I think she's talking about the whole concept of like men in general, like just not needing them, like at all. And I don't think it's necessarily about just not wanting to get married. She sounds like she just doesn't want men. I'm not invested in telling people how to live their lives. Like, if you don't want to have a man in your life, that's fine. But I do think that the idea that your friends and your sisters and stuff are going to be the main people to keep you company if you choose to completely abandon the whole idea of having a companion, I do think is a bit unrealistic, because unless your friends and your siblings also have no intention of finding partners and having their own families, odds are they're going to be quite busy people. If they've got their own kids, they've got their partners, they've got their own stuff, they're not going to be able to give you all the time in the world. So there is a reason why single people do tend to be more lonely. But if you're someone who doesn't need that, because some people generally just don't need that companionship, like they're quite happy being on their own, and that's fine. Personally, I'm quite social. Couldn't be me. Sorry. Like I love my relationship, and I can't wait to have a family, so it could be me. But I'm open to people, you know, choosing whatever path works for them. But I think the whole idea that men don't need women and women don't need men is just complete nonsense. I do think we need each other.
No, what you just said there, I echo that sentiment completely, because I think it's a nice balance. Because I think recently, over recent years, I'm not too sure what it's come down to, but it could be social media, it could be things like the Amber Heard thing and all that stuff. It could be Tory Lane's case, whatever it is. There has been a disconnect between men and women. And fundamentally, I do think we are different in obviously biologically, but the way we think as well. Maybe that could be societal conditions and the way we conditioned by whatever. But I think it's a nice balance. I'll be honest. I really love being around women. I've learned so much from women. Without the women in my life, I literally would not be the man I am today. Okay, no one needs anyone the same way another man doesn't need a man, or another woman doesn't need another woman, but it's a nice little balance. She just came across as quite kind of angry, and I do feel like she was targeting that towards really a specific subset of men, because all that kind of bullying women online stuff, I don't do that personally. But again, it's all relative. If you truly believe that you can live your best life as an individual and independent and just around your own sex, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you know what I'm saying? I respect that.
Why do people say I hate men? Isn't that just a sexist generalization? Short answer, no. When people use the phrase I hate men, they are not saying I hate all men on the basis of their gender, or I see any man on the street and I automatically hate him because he's a man. That's not what's being said. If you actually took the time to, understand context, you'd realize that the phrase I hate men is an exasperated response, typically given after someone describes a scenario where a man is doing something wrong, like abusing people. Similar but not quite equivalent to when you're driving on a highway behind an older person and you go, oh my god, they're driving so slow, I hate old people. It doesn't mean that you hate your grandma. It doesn't mean you hate all of the elderly people. It means you hate the old person in front of you who's driving slow. Well, then why are you being so general with it? Just say what you mean. Words matter. Yes, words and phrases matter. And I think you should be able to understand context of a conversation. Sarcasm and irony also wouldn't make sense if you didn't understand context, so I don't understand what your struggle is. You'd rather focus on the generalization than focus on the systemic problems.
I don't know, it's kind of a weird argument though, because it's kind of like, just because I'm making a generalization doesn't mean I'm making a generalization. Like, that's kind of really the argument. I don't think that generalizations are bad. I think you need generalizations, because if you can't make generalizations, you can't really observe patterns. She says if she sees a man doing something bad wherever, and then she's like, oh, I hate men, she thinks that's fine. My point is just be consistent. I don't think you can say that making a negative generalization about a group is okay sometimes. If you can't have a bad experience with women and say, oh, I hate women, or if you can't have a bad experience with, like, say, a black person and say, oh, I hate black people, I just don't see why you should be allowed to do it to men, or do it to white people, or do it to whatever other group of people. It's like, you're either allowed to make those kind of generalizations or you're not. That's kind of like my perspective on it, to be honest.
I completely agree. And I've always been a person, I always do push that on my channel as well. It's just be consistent and be fair. I mean, again, the example that she used, she says it's just an exasperated response when they do something wrong. I don't know, like abusing people. But again, like, I've never done that. Me personally, I've never abused anyone, emotionally, physically. And again, the exasperated response, it's not consistent, because I'm just echoing the same point you made. If a black person literally cuts you up, I hate black people, like, well, that doesn't make the exasperated response any better, because the black person's done something wrong, and the context is like, I don't know. I feel like, again, I do think she should specify that she's talking about the systemic issues at hand that women are victims of. I've got no problem with that. If that's the topic, let's kind of make that the topic. She kind of then trails off with the generalization and then compares it to old people driving. I just don't really think that was the most accurate comparison when their abuse and being a victim of SA and all these things. It doesn't really, there's layers to doing stuff wrong, if that makes, does that make sense?
Yeah, like you can't go from talking about SA to then talking about a slow old driver. Like, it's not quite the same.
It's not the same. It's not, that's what I'm saying. It's not the same. And that's where her argument, it kind of lost me. That's why I get, now I've watched it back, I get it. I get exactly what she's trying to say, but I feel like the point got misinterpreted with the fact that the lack of consistency and the kind of overall generalization argument. It's a weird one, but she's entitled to her opinion and whatnot. But
when you hate women, I don't hate women. I just think men are better than women at certain things, and they happen to be the things that are extremely important for survival. Next time a woman gives you that strong, independent woman bullshit, you need to remind her that less than 200 years ago, without a man in her life, she would literally die. Men hunted. Men are stronger. We can run faster. We can swim further. We can fight. There's a lot of things a man can do that a woman instinctively cannot do.
Okay, now this one, yeah, it's kind of annoying because as much as I don't really like a lot of things Andrew Tate stands for, I'm not going to disagree with him on this one, because if we look at society, for example, I truly believe women can do what men can do in society and independence and things like that. And I'm all for women equality and in all areas of society in different roles. But when you look at a lot of the roles that women want to be included in, they do seem to be more, in my opinion, from my observation, they do seem to be more corporate, more, how do you say it? More, less firefighting, less plastering, less
more cushy,
yeah, less scaffolding. You know, you don't see when it comes to things like war, for example, you don't see women jumping at the chance, say, you know, we want equality, so I'm gonna pick up a gun and go fight in wherever, Iran, and that's what I'm saying. That's not me being kind of ignorant to. I'm not really trying to insult women here. It's just that I truly believe women can do and are capable of what men can do, but it does, when you do look at society, the things that the infrastructure that we see today, it is often built by men. But then again, if there was no men around and it was purely women that were on this earth, are they capable of building? Are they capable of manual labor? Yeah, they are. Or womanual labor, or them mule labor. I believe that. Yeah, no, I do believe that still. What do you think about Andrew Tate there?
The points that you raised, I actually thought were quite interesting when you were saying, you know, women do want to have the more like comfortable jobs. I think the feministy types, you know, the activisty feminist types are the ones who are doing that. I don't think that like that's the average woman's mindset, but I do agree. I think that some of the feminists, they advocate to have more, like when they're arguing for gender equality and pushing gender quotas, they're never pushing them, like you said, in firefighting or in bricklaying or in bin collection, working class like professions. They're always pushing it in things like politics, CEOs. I disagree with quotas in general. You shouldn't be given something purely because of your identity. Like, I personally don't subscribe to that. People try and push this with like race as well, and I hate it because some people might think of that as a win, but I think about my friends and like how hard they worked at school and then at university to earn their positions. And the idea that someone could look at them like a diversity hire, like someone could just look at them and assume that they're a diversity hire because of the fact that we have things like quotas and stuff, infuriates me. As long as the only thing that stops them from getting the job is merit and qualifications, you've done all you need to do for equality. I think when you start then, you know, doing quotas and all this kind of stuff, I think that's when you're now basically like allowing groups to cheat, because it's like, oh, because you're a special identity, we're going to allow you to come in with less qualifications, less merit, whatever. And it's just, I don't think that's a win because, you know, like I said, there are people who work their asses off to get to where they get to. And the idea that people could look at them like, they just hired you because you're a diversity hire, it's just because you're black, it's just because you're a woman. I think that is so insulting, and I don't like that. But I do agree with you what you're saying. Like, there are some feminists who really advocate for that, and I do think it's cheating. I think if you were really that good, they would hire you regardless of your gender. You know what's really interesting actually about this? Tell me what you think about this, right? But I find it really interesting how people seem to have cognitive dissonance when it comes to employers and companies and stuff. Because in one breath, they'll say employers are greedy capitalists and all they care about is money. They don't care about people, right? But then in the same breath, they'll also say employers won't hire me because of my identity. So which one is it? Like, do they care about identity and they're not hiring you because of your identity? Or are they just greedy capitalists who only care about money and don't care about people? Because a greedy capitalist who doesn't care about people is going to hire who's going to make his wallet bigger. Such a greedy, self-serving capitalist is going to not hire someone who could make him a lot of money because of their identity. I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
No, I completely echo that point, to be honest. I can't disagree, because at the end of the day, again, it's all relative. People are different. Some people's prejudice outweighs their desire for money, but ultimately most people, if they are a greedy capitalist, they're only gonna see green ultimately, rather than black, blue, white, male, female. They're only gonna want to basically make as much money as possible, and they're going to use you to achieve that goal, essentially. So I'm not even gonna, I can't even counter that point. I completely agree, to be honest, really and truly.
But in regards to what he was saying, though, again, it's just kind of like the same thing as the fresh and fit guys. It's just like, oh, men are superior because they're stronger, and it's just like, okay, like that can't be the only metric that we use when we're just determining who is superior. Personally, I think like neither are superior. I think there's a reason we both exist, and it's because we both need each other. We complement each other. But yeah, so the whole like, oh, men are superior because we're super strong and we can hunt and we can fight. And it's like, okay, that's nice. But there's also things that women can do that you can't do.
Exactly. I mean, you could argue women are, I think, factually more intelligent, I think, or do better at school than men. So you could argue, rather than hunting physically, women could just create some contraption that kills the animals in a smart way. So, that's why I've always got a problem with these extreme views, whether it's extreme male views or extreme feminist views or whatever, red pill versus feminism. At the end of the day, they simplify men and women down to really surface level kind of traits that we have as a gender. I think there's a whole lot of nuances and grey areas when it comes to gender. Again, in the red pill kind of sphere, it's women are only good for sex, reproduction, this, that, and the other. Men are where we hunt, we earn money, and all this. It's like it's not that simple in my experience and in my mind. So that's why I've always got. That's why I like to listen to both sides and kind of strike a balance in the middle. Anything too far left this way, too far right that way, if it's politics, whether it's gender, whatever it is, it's not healthy. Too much of anything ain't good, in my opinion. You need to have a right balance. Appreciate that, understand the world is grey, and learn from everyone.
No, I agree. I definitely think if you're too hardcore women, everything, like women, the future is female, women power, all that kind of stuff, then you're too far in one direction. But then if you're also like men are superior and blah, 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 then you're also too far in the other direction. Like you said, they oversimplify men and women, and they oversimplify the dynamics between men and women, and they kind of make it seem like we don't really need each other, when the reality is that's just not true. And I don't know. It's weird though, because I don't know why you can't uplift men without crapping on women, and I don't know why you can't uplift women without crapping on men. What's stopping people from actually acknowledging the roles that men and women play individually within the society? Like, what these two groups, what's stopping us from acknowledging the individual unique roles that we play for society and appreciating both of them? I just don't understand the competition. The competition is cringe, and this is all over social media. This whole men versus women is so childish, in my personal opinion. I just think it's so stupid.
You can uplift a community, a demographic, without basically slandering another. It's very easy. You can say that you appreciate this race or this, you prefer this person, without slandering another. It is very simple. I don't really understand. That's what I think. A lot of these people don't really believe what they're saying, in my opinion. They just kind of They hear a few things on social media, they see a few things that kind of resonate with them, and they just run with it. I don't think a lot of people really know what the hell they're talking about, if I'm being honest, Patience. Like.
So Cam, plug yourself, tell people about your channel and where they can find you.
Guys, my name's Cam, aka Topical Juice. You can find me on YouTube. The name's Topical Juice, like tropical without the R, and Instagram topical_juice. Please hit me up. Please engage with me. I love the debate. Challenge with humility, and yeah, man, let's grow, join the community, and I appreciate every single one of y'all. I appreciate you as well, Patience. Thank you so much for having me on your glorious channel. And yeah, man, I'll see you lot at Topical Juice.
Well, if you enjoyed this video, then do like and subscribe. I am also on other socials if you'd like to check me out on there. I will link Cam's channel in the description box as well down below. Thank you very, very much for giving me your time today, and I will see you in my next video.